Hi guys, I'm Shane Snipes and you are watching Sustainable1000.com, traveling around the country doing 1,000 interviews across 48 states in about 250 days, although I'm realizing I'm only going to get about 750 of those done on the actual road trip, and then the rest of them will be radio shows and random video broadcasts. I've got some really cool opportunities with Cisco's video technology to capture some awesome videos from all around the country for the remainder pieces of my 1,000 interviews across America, and so I'm excited to do that. But let's continue our discussion here with Eric Baird, who, Eric, I find it so amazing that people come up with ideas like this and then they just run with them, and you literally create a little mini movement by just promoting an apple tree. Why do you think people get so excited about projects like that?
Well, the Apple is a really easy sell in New York, as we bill ourselves as the Big Apple, which actually was a horse racing term that came then through the African American community to jazz, and then from jazz it was just a hop over to media. So, but it also happens to be that we grew this apple tree in the 18th century, the Newtown Pippin, and one of the wonderful things about the Newtown Pippin is that it's authentic. It really is our heritage, our culture. It is our history. So your traditionalists, your historians, your preservationists, they all can get behind it.
Yeah.
But it also happens to be a green apple, and Mayor Bloomberg has a Plan YC program, which is the 2030 vision of New York City. How can we make this a more sustainable place? Reduce our energy usage, reduce our carbon emissions, and things like that. So the symbol he chose was naturally a green apple. So the Newtown Pippin, being a green apple, speaks to that, that ambition, that aspiration for New York, as well as being rooted in its real history. It's not just a Madison Avenue advertising construct. So it's actually a wonderful symbol, and I lucked out with that.
Yeah, definitely. It links into a bunch of different things. I'm seeing a bunch of green roofs. We're up here on a green roof here,
Yes.
right on the west side of New York, downtown area. And then over here is some greenness on that roof as well.
Yes.
Is that taking off in New York?
It is. We're on the Solaire building, green roof, and they've been kind enough to lend some space for the apple trees to kind of sit in a way station until they get to some of the spots they're going to. Like, I'm going to bike one up to a school in the Upper West today, and some others are going to the Bronx next week. But yeah, the green roofs are definitely taking off. The understanding of how this affects our estuary is becoming really common knowledge compared to what it used to be, because New York has a combined sewage system, and so that when you have huge floods from street flow and whatnot, that actually will overwhelm the system unless they open the gates, and so we actually have untreated sewage and other pollutants going into the waterways. But when you have green roofs, you can actually catch a lot of that water and all their green plantings on the ground as well. So it's really catching on, because people realizing it's not hippy-dippy, that this is just another approach to engineering.
A great point. It is an amazing approach to engineering, and I think that's one of the big selling points for sustainability is it makes sense. It's a whole picture view of what we can do to make our lives work together well and be really efficient, and at the same time take that free time or that energy that you would be putting into doing something that isn't efficient and enjoying your life.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a gentleman from one of the building trades out at one of the early conferences talking about Plan YC, who said, you get a lot further with my people, being the hard hats, if you stop talking about green buildings and start talking about high performance buildings. And they really are one and the same. And one of the pioneering developers in New York, perhaps the pioneering developer in green fashion, is the Durst organization. And they didn't build it as green, they built it as energy efficient back when they started building in the 90s. The Albanese Organ family also is building these sustainable towers now. Like the Solaire we're in is an Albanese construction. So there are a lot of people who are understanding that they come from traditional developer backgrounds, and they're realizing, wait a minute, we can do things better. Right. And also, of course, there are the amenities involved. I mean, like now we're on this beautiful green roof rather than just a hardscape, and so that actually helps your building sell. And then on the ground as well, the more green you have, the more desirable your area is. So there are quality of life benefits that are huge that you don't get from a huge underground tank.
Definitely, definitely. One last question I always have to ask, because that's why I'm here, is what's your definition of sustainability?
Well, I really have to tip my hat to Bill McKibben, who's got a nice hard line on it, which is 350, 350 parts per million CO2. Um, that is a nice defined target, and I think that we should be aiming to get below 350. We're about 390, I think now. And that is one major threshold for sustainability. Now, there are environmental toxins. There's mercury in the harbor and elsewhere in the ocean, and there are any number of issues that are also equally valid. But if we want to at least have some stability as a society to be able to address these other issues, we have to go get this carbon under control so that we can then have the order that we've grown as a culture to expect, so that then we can focus on these problems. If we're dealing with chaos caused by climate change, we're not going to be able to focus on all these other issues at all. And that's coming down the pike. I mean, it's already happening now, but the threshold has been crossed and is going to get more and more difficult for us to do these other things that will seem ancillary when we're dealing with floods and storms and things like that.
Sounds great. I love it. Good information, guys. Make sure you check out these guys at their website, which is
newtownpippin.org, NEWTOWNPIPPIN.org.
Excellent. And I want Eric to take us out with, I don't know, an inspiring statement, something that would inspire our audience to go out and make a difference.
Well, I would say what you want to create is always scalable. So you might have a grand vision for your city. Start with something that you can do immediately, improve the principle, and then grow it. It might not be inspiring, but the fact that it's possible hopefully will inspire you when you realize you can take a bite size and then grow it.
Right. A bite size, just like an apple. I love it. Right back to the apple analogies. I'm Shane Snipes, and you're